Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo, and this is Three Buck Theater, my show where I talk about movies and stuff. And this is something that popped up in the trades this morning, and it totally makes sense, but it's a huge fucking downer. Hugh Jackman shoots down possibility of Wolverine Deadpool movie. Those are just words none of us wanted to hear, like ever. None of us wanted to hear it. Right, it says here that the world is about to see Hugh Jackman's final go at the Wolverine character, with Logan set to come out next week. Fans of both Wolverine and Deadpool franchises have been hoping and wanting a team-up film since Ryan Reynolds' go at the character in 2016. However, Jackman recently shot down the possibility of that happening, at least with his version of Wolverine. So he says here, no, Ryan is currently sleeping... He says here, no, and Ryan is currently sleeping outside my house. And he says here, look, if that movie had appeared 10 years ago, probably a different story. But I knew 2.5 years ago that this was the last one. The first call I made was to Logan director James Mangold. I said, Jim, we got one more shot at this. And as soon as Jim came up with an idea and we worked on it, I was never more excited. But it feels like the right time. Deadpool, go for it, man. Do your thing. You don't need me. And I get it. I do get it. I understand. Why he would say that. You know, Hugh Jackman has been playing the role of Wolverine literally since 1999. The movie came out in 2000, but he's been acting as this character for 18 years, right? 18 years, essentially. 17, 18 years. Okay, so almost 2 fucking decades he's played this character, and people love him as it. They do. They absolutely love him in the role. But he ain't getting any younger, and Wolverine's regenerative abilities are not going to tie in. The thing is though, never say never. Honest to God, never say never. All right. And I say never both as this is saying, as kind of a pun, because there is that movie Never Say Never Again, which if you are familiar with the James Bond franchise, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you aren't familiar, essentially it boils down to this. Never Say Never Again was Sean Connery's last James Bond movie. However, it's technically not a James Bond movie, because it wasn't produced by Everything or Nothing Productions, so it technically isn't considered canon. There's that, and the plot is essentially a rehash of, I do believe, Goldfinger, or Dr. No. It's one of those two that it's a rehash of. But the point is, it's not considered canon in the Bond franchise. So the same thing kind of applies to Logan. Logan is actually not part of the existing X-Men timeline. It's not. It's its own standalone story, which is, it makes sense given the fact that, like, given everything that happened in X-Men Days of Future Past, it undid the events of X-Men 3, undid the events of X-Men, or was it the Wolverine, which it's so funny too, because the way that movie played out, or the way it played out at the end, is the Wolverine, in my opinion, was one of the best films of 2013. I fucking love that goddamn thing. Was entirely inconsequential to the overall storyline, because at the end of Days of Future Past, which came out the next year, they just eradicated that from existence. So that fucking sucked. But the point is that anything can happen. Now, look, Logan is going to come out next week. It's R-rated. It's hardcore. Some of the movie writers saw it last night. Some of the movie bloggers, I mean, and they lost their shit at it. So it's going to be something that's going to be well received by people. And so if it does well enough, and Fox is basically like, we are having trouble doing anything else, they might just go to Hugh Jackman and be like, look, man, you don't have to do a lot. Maybe 1 or 2 big scenes. That's it. We'll give you a truckload of money. Come on, Deadpool 3. Okay. And Hugh Jackman might, depending on whether or not anything else is coming up in his life. I know the dude has made more money than he needs to, so he can pick and choose, but it all depends. It really all depends. So at this point, I'm not saying it's going to happen. The likelihood of it actually happening is slim to fucking none, but I look at it more like a thing of, yes, this could happen. We could totally see this in a couple years, provided the heavens align and the X-Men movies start to take a huge shit. All right, because X-Men Apocalypse was a good movie. I liked it. It wasn't great. It had some story flaws, but there were some good moments with it. And the new X-Men movie is apparently being shot this summer, but we have no real information on that outside of maybe Simon Kinberg is directing. I got no idea. But we do know that with Legion being on FX right now and that doing very well in terms of critical response, and there's going to be an X-Men show, official X-Men show coming to Fox, I do believe next year or maybe later this year. We know that Fox is kind of retailoring itself to TV, and they're probably going to like tone down some of the big theatrical stuff for a while they build up audiences there and maybe can get their groove back, so to speak. So again, anything could really happen. I would love to see these two team up, but honest to God, if I'm being 100% honest here, I'd rather Spider-Man and Deadpool team up. That will never happen unless X-Men, the new movies, tank, and the only thing that does well for Fox is Deadpool, and then they just, in an act of desperation, go to Marvel and say, let's make this thing work, and then they come to table with Sony, they make it fucking work, and they go from there. Or they go to, they don't even have to go to Marvel, they go to Sony, then Sony takes that to Marvel and makes that work. So that's what I think. I'm a little bit bummed that there's not going to be a crossover officially, but again, never say never. We could get it. You know, Hollywood is fickle like that. If certain things aren't making the kind of money that they hope to make, they will find gimmicks and ways to do it. So unless there's a new Wolverine that's cast in the next like 6 months, again, anything could happen. So these are just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Write them down in the comments below. Go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. My name is Matt Jarbo, otherwise known as Mundane Matt. I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.